Hello and welcome to the eBuyer business page. My name is Matt, I'm the service specialist over at eBuyer.com, and today we're going to be taking a quick look at the Dell PowerEdge T130 server. It comes in 4 specific flavours: the Celeron, the Intel Pentium, the i3 or the E3 Xeon, our pick of the bunch being the E3 Xeon for most business cases. It supports up to 64 GB of unregistered ECC memory and has 4 expansion bays for 3.5-inch discs. These are supported by either the S130 or the H330 RAID controllers. It's worth remembering that the S130 is actually an integrated controller and may not play nicely with certain operating systems or hypervisors. The ones that it does play nicely with, you may still have to download the drivers from Dell's support page. The Dell T130 sits just above the T20, soon to be replaced by the T30 range, which means for a little bit more money you get a lot more features, such as 2 GB NICs on the back, a dedicated remote management card, a non-Intel RAID card, and up to 64 GB of memory. Okay, so let's take a quick look inside. You can remove the side panel by pulling this quick release latch here. On the inside of the side panel are additional instructions if you ever get stuck. If we take a quick look inside the chassis, this angular heatsink here actually has beneath it a standard 1151 socket. We have 4 DIMMs for additional memory, and we actually have 4 3.5-inch bays throughout the chassis. The drives are held in by standard plastic caddies with push pins. Now, in order to access the 2 at the top, you actually have to remove the front panel of the server. You need to remove these clips here, take away the units, and pull down on this latch. This releases the entire cage at the top, which houses the DVD drives and 2 additional drives at the back. On the rear of the server, we have a serial port, a VGA port, 2 GB NICs, a dedicated iDRAC port for remote management, and 6 USB ports, as well as some PCI slots for expansion.
Okay, so let's take a quick look inside BIOS. When you first boot up the machine, you'll be presented with this screen. From here, especially if it's the first time you've powered the machine on, I would strongly suggest going into the lifecycle controller by hitting F10 and updating the firmware. However, we're going to go into the BIOS. You do this by hitting F2. Once inside, you're presented with 3 options: System BIOS, iDRAC or Device. We're going to go into iDRAC, which is Dell's remote management interface. If we go down to Network, the most important setting, at the top you'll see an Enable or Disable remote management. Underneath that there will be a choice of which NIC it's on. Some servers don't have dedicated ports, so you can choose 1 or 2. If we scroll down, you'll see the IP options for this. You can either have DHCP set an IP, but we would strongly suggest setting one of your own. So this needs to pertain to your subnet as it stands. In this case we'll put 192.168.1.15 and set the static gateway as 192.168.1.1, whatever your router is or access to the internet. The subnet mask can stay as 255.255.255.0, assuming that you're using a /24 subnet. Once you're happy with the settings, you can hit escape and it will allow us to save these settings. Hit enter and it will confirm that the settings have been saved. Now hit escape and go to System BIOS. If we go into System Information, we'll be able to see the server's model number and most importantly the service tag. If you need any assistance from Dell, this will be the tag that you quoted denotes your specific machine. If we hit escape and go back and go into memory, we can see what's currently installed. From here we can turn on system memory testing, which runs a brief test during post, but you can leave this disabled. There aren't many options to choose from. If we go into processor settings, there are multiple options to choose from, however most of these can be left enabled. The only one that's important is virtualization. Even if you don't virtualize, there's no real reason to turn this off. In boot settings, you can leave it as UEFI, but if you're having trouble booting to a specific device or installing a certain operating system, change it back to BIOS. Now, we can go into SATA settings, and from within here, you can see the multiple devices that are currently connected. In this instance, we have a couple of Toshiba drives and a Western Digital. We want to put these into RAID, so we need to switch AHCI to RAID mode. Bear in mind that any data that's currently on the devices will be erased when we do this, so be careful. Once that's done, hit escape and escape again and it will allow you to save the settings. Hit enter, they've been saved, you can hit escape and reboot the machine. Because we've enabled RAID, we should be prompted to enter the S130 RAID controller by hitting Ctrl and R. If we hit Ctrl and R during post, it should take us through to the RAID configuration screen. From here there are multiple options, but firstly we need to initialize the disks, getting them ready to go into a RAID array. If we hit enter and go to convert to RAID capable disk, we can press insert on all of the disks and get them ready to go into RAID arrays. Once done, hit enter and you'll be prompted to let you know that this will format the disks, so only do so if you have no data of importance on there. From here it will format them ready to go into RAID, and once complete we can hit escape and go back to the main menu. Okay, so from here we can go to create virtual disk and we're going to create a RAID 1, so we'll highlight the top two by hitting insert. From here we'll choose RAID 1. And here we can select the partition size. We can hit page up to increase it or page down to decrease it. We're going to use the full capacity. So hit enter, don't worry about the read caching, and choose default. To confirm, hit C and the partition will be created. So we've now created a RAID 1 array. We can see this if we go to the virtual disks, RAID 1 using 2 of the 3, and if we look at the physical disks, we can see that 2 of them are online, 1 is ready. So I'll show you how to delete the virtual disks now. If you hit delete, press enter, it'll prompt you again that you're going to lose data, so only do so if you have no data on there. For good practice, before you create a new RAID partition, we need to reinitialize the disks. So the same process as before, reinitialize, format them. Once again, once complete, hit escape and we'll go back to the main menu. From here, we'll choose create virtual disks and highlight all 3 for RAID 5. Hit enter and choose RAID 5, again keeping the partition as maximum. Once again, leave these settings as standard. And hit C to confirm. And that's it, we'll have created a RAID 5 partition with the 3 disks we have installed. There are a few additional options. If you go to controller options, you can get the system to pause during post to let you know if any drives have degraded or failed. It's always advised to turn these on. Once done, we can hit escape and we can choose to boot from the partition we've just created.
Thanks a lot for watching. We've covered the basic unit, playing around in the BIOS of the server, and creating a RAID array. If you have any questions regarding the T130 server, or maybe you'd like a custom build, please get in touch with us at solutions@ebio.com. Thank you.